2 million years ago, the Demon King did something very terrible. He killed the gods and destroyed the sacred scrolls. Before ending his sorrowful life, the Demon King let a useless hero finish it all, separating the 4 universes at his death. However, when the Demon King was reborn, he introduced himself to his parents as Anos. Strangely, he grew into a man in just a week, unaware that his existence had been erased from the records of history and that the world around him was actually just an illusion. On the day of the entrance exam, the atmosphere grew tense when a girl, who was considered useless, stepped into the arena. At the same time, an ugly loser bumped into her, causing her to drop an important letter she had been holding tightly. At that moment, a handsome man named Anos came to her aid. The girl introduced herself as Misha, and unfortunately, her father was even more useless than her own family. As they started to walk away, a man named Zeps insulted Anos, calling him a fool just because he helped the girl. But Anos simply walked away as if the lackey didn't exist. Zeps, unwilling to back down and summoning his fire, shouted for Anos to respond. With a soft sigh, Anos blew out his fire. Using the power of his words, he easily forced Zeps to freeze in place, mentally torturing him as Zeps received punishment during the break. Inside the building, the first stage of the final exam was a duel between the applicants. When it was Anos' turn, he saw that his opponent was the ugly and worthless loser he already recognized. Despite that, the anti-demon armor blocked Anos' ability to speak and activate his powers. Zeps began summoning one of the 7 legendary swords to enhance his magic. As soon as the match started, Zeps rushed at Anos, ready to fight. However, with one exhale, the fire went out again. To console Zeps, who looked downcast due to his sad life, Anos promised not to make a single move for the rest of the match. Zeps, thinking he was making excuses because he felt weak, suddenly felt his entire body explode from within. Anos explained that this was all due to the power of his heartbeat, and the wave of vibrations began to destroy Zeps' insides. Even so, the loser didn't give up and continued to insult Anos, calling him ugly and worthless. Calmly, Anos covered his mouth with his shoe. After a moment, with a snap of his fingers, Zeps was completely obliterated. However, since Anos didn't want to end everything just like that, he decided to revive Zeps from the dead and asked if Zeps was ready to give up after experiencing death. Zeps remained stubborn and refused to surrender, so Anos killed him again and brought him back to life. When Zeps claimed he came from a royal lineage, Anos began to kill him hundreds of times in a second, letting him know they could do this for thousands of years. But before Anos snapped his fingers again, Zeps bent down and admitted that he had lost. For the 3rd stage of the exam, they then started the knowledge assessment, and the first question asked about the identity of the founding Demon King. Without hesitation, Anos answered that he was the founder. When the day ended, Misha waited outside until Anos finished, and as an incredible gigachat, Anos invited her to eat together at his house. As he reached for her, Anos activated his teleportation magic, a forbidden spell that was lost and known only to a handful of people. During dinner, Anos' mother worried that Misha might steal her son, so she asked, "What do you like most about my son?" After a moment of hesitation, Misha sincerely replied that she liked his big heart. Hearing that, Anos' mother felt happy because Misha found something sweet in Anos. She then went to the kitchen to make a cake. As they were walking home, Misha revealed something shocking. She had never seen her parents since birth and that the man with her was not her father. Suddenly, a magical barrier formed around them, creating a colosseum that sealed them inside. From the shadows, a man appeared and introduced himself as Demon King Leorig, claiming to be Zeps' brother. However, Leorig shrugged off his brother, saying their family didn't need a weakling like Zeps. He electrocuted him until he was charred, threatening that Anos would be the next target for not respecting the pure blood of the Demon King. Still, Anos calmly expressed that he had never cared about lineage. When they summoned a magical seal to attack him, Anos began to break the very laws of magic, destroying the magical seal. Everything started to explode, and when the dust settled, the noble decided to use his ultimate ability, forbidden origin magic that was only passed down in royal families. As Leorig hurled it toward Anos, a red flare shot up into the sky, but when the dust settled, Anos appeared completely unscathed. Anos explained that origin magic was actually the act of borrowing power from the Demon King, so it couldn't hurt him. Only Anos could influence his own origin. Despite feeling all that humiliation, Anos decided to give him one last chance by reviving his brother as a zombie. By losing his soul, Anos could completely erase his brother's magic. As the zombie approached, Anos told Leorig that the only way to save himself was to remember the beautiful moments he spent with his brother, caring for him even during the toughest times. When Leorig refused, Anos commanded him to call out his brother's name. As the memories surfaced in his mind, the field exploded from the magical power of Zeps, and Anos felt it was a shame how weak their family bond was. With the entire Colosseum collapsing, Anos threw a protective barrier over the 2 corpses, including Misha, before the whole arena was obliterated. When Misha looked at Anos, she felt disappointed at how worthless her lineage was now. Seeing the situation, Anos decided to reveal the real truth. He told everyone that he was the tyrannical Demon King, the true one. Then, on her first day at school, Misha revealed to Anos that she was the only one who failed the knowledge test. Anos was confused, wondering how that could happen. In an effort to find out, Anos investigated his memories and realized that the name of the Demon King had actually been changed to abridged. When class started, their teacher introduced the basics of all magic, sigils. But Anos immediately corrected him, telling the teacher he was wrong. Without hesitation, Anos stood up to show the truth, even though the teacher threatened to kick him out if he wasted time. With one shift in the flow of magic, Anos doubled the output of his magic effect and then returned to his seat, leaving everyone in shock. After sitting down, the teacher announced there would be group duels in the coming weeks, and those who wanted to be group leaders had to introduce themselves. The charming blonde girl was the first to step up, introducing herself as Sasha. Misha enthusiastically mentioned that Sasha was her sister, who actually lived with their parents. After that, Anos confidently introduced himself as another leader, claiming that he was the true tyrannical Demon King. In no time, everyone chose to join Sasha's team. However, Sasha approached Anos and said that even though he managed to get teammates, he was just worthless trash, a puppet controlled by magic. Hearing those words, Anos called her stupid for not understanding the flow of magic. Sasha promised to get back at him for the insult. As Sasha stepped back, her destruction magic activated, but it had no effect on Anos whatsoever. Calmly, Anos stood with his own destruction magic, warning Sasha to know her place. After class ended, Sasha appeared in front of Anos and Misha, confidently stating that she wanted to propose terms for their upcoming match. Sasha suggested that if Anos won, she would join his team, but if he lost, he would have to be her slave for life and obey all her commands. Anos, confident that he would definitely win, agreed to the terms without hesitation. A week later, they met in the forest for the duel, and there, they created a Zek pact to seal the conditions of their fight. Once the pact was sealed, a bird came and announced the start of the exam. In an instant, Sasha's team began building gizes for protection, but Misha was curious about their plan. Anos explained that he didn't intend to hide. Instead, Misha built 3 castles using her gize spells to distract Sasha's team. Inside one of the castles, Sasha tried to order her subordinates to get ready, but they soon realized that Anos was already closing in on their gize. Sasha mocked them all, calling them weak and dirty cowards. Confused, her subordinates wondered how Anos could hear them. Relaxed, Anos replied that their spell encryption was easier to break than their mother's back at night. Then, effortlessly, Anos held the castle with one hand, lifted it, and threw it into the sky before catching it again. After spinning it around, Anos hurled the castle far away, causing it to crash to the ground and crush several students trapped inside. Despite that, Sasha didn't lose hope and suggested a new attack, a Geograz spell strong enough to obliterate anyone. Right before their eyes, Sasha's team summoned powerful weapons using a combined spell and unleashed an impressive Geograz attack. Seeing their efforts, Anos felt they deserved a reward. With all his power, he shot a small flame that zipped through the grass and headed straight for their castle, ready to cause further chaos. Because they were afraid they would all be destroyed, Sasha's team set up some shields to stop Anos's attack. However, the fire Anos unleashed easily shattered all those shields, breaking into the castle and instantly burning everything to the ground. At that moment, Anos appeared before Sasha with a confident aura, and Sasha was curious how Anos could launch such a powerful attack all by himself. Anos explained that it wasn't just a Geograz spell, but his magical power was actually much greater than that. However, to Anos, none of that was important. He reminded Sasha about their agreement. Now Sasha had to be his slave and do whatever he asked. Sasha tried to say that she'd rather hide in the ground, but when Misha tried to help, Sasha told her to step aside and reluctantly agreed to follow Anos's orders. Sasha wondered why Anos was willing to include her in his team. Anos replied that her eyes were very beautiful and radiated one of the most elegant forms of magic. That day became a special moment when Anos invited them for dinner. His mom seemed happy because Anos brought home a second wife, while his dad felt proud to have raised such a great man. That night, after they arrived home, Sasha decided to talk to Anos privately. She thanked him for helping them become sisters again. Then, Sasha was curious and asked what Anos would do if his fate was being controlled by someone else. Anos firmly replied that he would annihilate anyone who dared to stand in his way. Hearing that, Sasha stepped back a bit, stating that she only kissed him as a friend and not because she liked him or anything. Anos looked at her with amusement and said, "You're a liar!" However, Sasha began to worry that their kiss might make her pregnant. To avoid a more complicated situation, Anos chose to disappear before she could drag him into paying child support, escaping that drama. The next day at school, Misha approached Anos with some important information. Sasha's birthday was the next day. Misha wondered what she could give as a gift. Suddenly, Sasha appeared, sitting at their table with a confident smile. She told Anos that her former teammates planned to join their team. However, Anos casually responded that he wasn't interested in that group of losers at all. Not long after that, their teacher walked in and began explaining that the tyrannical Demon King would soon be reincarnated. To prepare for the rebirth, one of the 7 elder demon emperors would teach them some special magic. That's when Ibis Necron stepped into the room, and Anos immediately called him by name, wondering if the Demon King still remembered his master. Their teacher promised to kick him out of the class soon, but the Demon King decided to forgive him and was curious about how they met. Anos, feeling a bit mischievous, decided to make him remember. After sifting through those old memories, Anos let him go and ordered him to start the lecture. After class ended, Anos informed the old teacher that he had infiltrated the lost memories from 2,000 years ago. However, Anos found something troubling. The teacher genuinely believed that the Demon King was Avis Dilhevia. Anos concluded that someone must have rewritten history after his death, stealing all of his glory and even erasing people's memories of his existence. Even so, there was something about Anos that felt familiar to the teacher, but the teacher decided to keep his distance. He wanted to make sure that Anos was really the Demon King, so he quickly walked away. Not long after, Anos rejoined Misha, and he noticed that Misha was holding the same letter he had found on the day of the entrance exam. Misha told him that the letter was from her guardian. As they chatted, they spotted Sasha with her former teammates, who were trying to win her back for their team. But all their efforts seemed futile, and they started to wonder why Sasha was hanging out with 2 strangers at school. Angry Sasha couldn't hold herself back. Her demon eyes sparkled, and the ground around her began to crack. She yelled at them to get out of her sight, making faces she found disgusting. The next day, their teacher began informing the students that each group had to gather magical tools for the dungeon exam, and the group leader would claim those items for their team. Once the exam started, all the students rushed into the dungeon. However, Sasha was curious why Anos was still waiting behind. Anos calmly answered her, explaining that the best way to win the exam was to find the royal staff on the lowest level of the dungeon. Interestingly, the teachers themselves considered the royal staff just a legend that never existed. But Anos was confident he could find it. As they walked through the dungeon, Anos casually told Misha that they were in his castle. They both stepped deeper inside, and Anos excitedly said that there was a cool gift in the treasure room for Sasha's birthday. But once Anos realized that today was also Misha's birthday, he was shocked and realized that they were actually twins. Not long after, they arrived at a wall that looked like a dead end. However, Anos confidently said that it was actually a secret passage. Sasha tried to use her demon eyes to look inside, but she was shocked because she couldn't see anything. Without hesitation, Anos stepped forward and broke through the wall, revealing the hidden secret passage. Once they successfully entered the deeper room, Anos explained that he had concealed his domain to activate the natural magic circle. However, as soon as Anos looked around, he realized that everything looked different from the last time he had come, and he was curious about who had manipulated this place while he was away. Finally, they arrived in front of a large door leading to the royal staff. Misha examined it closely and realized that the door was protected by anti-magic. But Anos, without a second thought, simply pushed the door open. After seeing the royal staff, Anos took Misha to a private room and asked her to choose a gift for Sasha. Misha immediately got interested in a phoenix cloak that looked very enchanting. She was sure this gift would be the best for her twin sister. A little while later, they returned to find Sasha, and Misha handed her the gift she had chosen with a smile, wishing her a happy birthday to her only twin sister. Seeing how thoughtful her sister was, Sasha promised to cherish the gift forever. Sasha then shouted at Anos, asking him to give her a little privacy so she could put on her new cloak. However, when Anos returned, the atmosphere had changed. Anos was shocked to see that Sasha had already killed Misha. Sasha began to hurl hurtful words, calling Anos a loser who had been betrayed by a kiss. But Anos thought Sasha was just acting to get attention. Anos was stunned, wondering how Sasha could destroy one of the strongest demon contracts. Sasha continued, in a condescending tone, that Misha was born just to be a worthless slave. At that moment, Sasha recited a conditioning spell on Misha, threatening to end her life if Anos tried to save her. Thinking all her plans had succeeded, Sasha tried to activate the flying spell. However, Anos quickly caught her and healed Misha's wounds. With his demon eyes shining brightly every time Anos got excited, he pointed out that he noticed Sasha's eyes were inactive when Misha wished her a happy birthday. This only changed when Sasha received her cloak. Sasha was confused, wondering why her demon eyes weren't active even though she had betrayed her. She should have felt happy since her plan had finally come to fruition. But no, instead, Sasha activated her demon eyes and shattered the walls of the dungeon with her power. Anos, not wanting to stand by, quickly activated his own eyes to hold Sasha in the air, freezing her in place. Misha, witnessing all this, immediately urged Anos to let her escape. Anos was curious and asked her to reveal the reason behind all her plans. However, he eventually decided to let her go. Misha tried to help Sasha, but Sasha immediately flew away at high speed. Now, only Anos and Misha were left. Anos told Misha to confess everything about herself. Reluctantly, Misha began to explain that she would disappear at midnight. She revealed that she was just a copy of Sasha, who was never meant to exist in the first place. Created from Sasha through fusion magic, Misha only had a lifespan of 15 years. Sasha felt as if her life had never been seen by anyone. But in the midst of all that, Misha felt happy because she finally had a friend. As Misha started to apologize for feeling like a useless burden, Anas immediately hugged her warmly, saying that he was very glad to have met her. He also encouraged her to make one wish, promising to grant it. Misha sincerely said that she wanted to one day live happily with her sister. Meanwhile, in the basement, the doors suddenly disappeared just before Sasha could leave. At that moment, Anas appeared with Misha, saying that Misha wanted to make peace with Sasha. Misha asked if Sasha really hated her, but Sasha instead chose to challenge Anas to a duel again. Sasha said she would only answer Misha's question if Anas could control his magic circle. Sasha began drawing a magic circle, but Anas already sensed her plan. Anas knew that Sasha was creating a sigil beyond her control and realized that Sasha would actually fail in the duel. Quickly, Anas activated his magic and won the duel. Finally, Sasha agreed to talk to her sister. Sasha recalled their childhood when Misha was always by her side, even when Sasha couldn't control her demon eyes. However, everyone left her, thinking she was just a replica. Sasha was determined to save Misha from disappearing at midnight on their 15th birthday. Sasha began researching a magic spell that was believed to grant eternal life. As Sasha read the spell, she told Misha that her magic circle could change their fate. However, to activate it, Sasha needed to be rejected. Sasha revealed everything she had done, explaining that it was time for Misha to hate her and choose to live without her. The plan seemed to be going smoothly when Sasha recited the spell to change their fate. But suddenly, the spell failed, and the magic circle's seal began to disappear. Misha firmly said that she would never hate Sasha, no matter what happened. Her words made Sasha fall to her knees, disappointed in herself. Sasha began begging Misha to reject her so that Sasha could save her with the spell. But Misha confidently replied that she would remain inside Sasha and never betray her. Misha also revealed to Anas how happy she was to be reunited with her sister. Misha felt that now was the time to enter Nirvana. However, Anas had a different idea. Anas told them that there was a solution for both of them to stay alive. All Anas needed to do was change the past. Since they were born as demons from two separate sources, Anas planned to merge those sources so that they could become true twins, not just copies. At that moment, Anas activated his magic, stating that he would send them back to the past. However, to use his power, they had to truly believe that Anas was the real tyrannical demon king. Suddenly, the supreme ruler broke through the ceiling and stabbed Anas in the heart. The girls were shocked to realize that Ivis was the elder from their class. With a condescending tone, Ivis began saying that they were merely vessels to resurrect the founder. Anas was confused about why Ivis wanted to revive someone who was already alive and immediately attacked him with Jigri. The elder wondered how Anas survived his attack. Anas responded that he was immortal and threw his sword, hitting the wall. Even so, Anas continued his chant and activated Revive, beginning to transport the girls through time. Shortly after, the wall opened, and the timekeeper appeared before them. The timekeeper reminded them that he had come to punish them for disrupting the flow of time. With a flash, the timekeeper grabbed Ivis and rewound time, healing his wounds as if nothing had happened. The timekeeper restored all of Ivis's power, and Ivis came back to life, ready to execute them. Anas, not standing idly by, threw Jigri at him. However, Ivis froze it, causing a massive explosion. As Ivis launched his scythe, Anas's shield shattered into pieces, and the second scythe destroyed the other shield. Before they could realize what had happened, Ivis appeared and stabbed Anas from behind. In an instant, Anas disappeared before their eyes. But unexpectedly, Anas reappeared in front of Ivis, who was shocked to see him still standing. Anas revealed that he himself was the only one who could kill him. But Ivis, not willing to back down, instantly vanished. Ivis then commanded time to stop, and a mysterious darkness enveloped them all, freezing the girls in an instant. Even though the situation seemed grim, Anas remained undefeated. He asserted that not even time could stop the power of his will. The elder, unwilling to lose, flew toward Anas with the intent to finish him off, destroying all barriers in his way. However, as the attack came, Anas quickly protected himself with a new barrier and effortlessly deflected the assault. With confidence, Anas told Misha and Sasha that he was willing to do anything to make them happy, even ready to give up all his power to destroy any enemies that threatened them. At that moment, the spell binding him broke, and a blinding golden light appeared. Sasha shouted at Anas to change their fate. Together, they declared their belief that Anas's reincarnation was the truth and that Anas was the true tyrannical demon king. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the golden light, taking all their precious memories with them. Reverting to their infant forms, they exchanged sources, perfecting their transition as twin siblings. With the girls protected in the light, Anas told the elder that he was ready to fight. Without wasting time, new magic activated, and Anas drew his destructive sword, prepared to obliterate his enemy. Before the demon could move, Anos stabbed it deeply in the face. He quickly realized that the demon wasn't healing, and without hesitation, Anos began to kill it with just a single motion. In an instant, the demon exploded, bringing the battle to a peaceful end. After that, Anos summoned the elder Ibis back and informed him that he had executed the demon and the guardian controlling its body with just a flick of his finger. Anos then restored Ibis's memories and asked him to spy on the other elders until they figured out who erased their memories. At that moment, the golden light began to fade, and the girls wondered if their spell had worked. Anos nodded and told them that it had indeed succeeded, reassuring them that neither of them would disappear at midnight. Once outside, Sasha felt a wave of happiness that they were both still alive. Filled with regret, Sasha apologized to Misha for treating her poorly for so many years. Before they left, Anos gave Misha an ice ring shaped like a lotus leaf. This ring had extraordinary power. It could freeze entire oceans in an instant. Anos said with a smile, "I found it in a chamber within the prison, and I thought it would make the perfect birthday present for you." The next day in class, Sasha eagerly awaited their teacher to announce their perfect score from the underground exam. However, when the teacher arrived, there was another announcement. It turned out that a transfer student would be joining their class, and this student was a master of magical swords. The teacher began explaining that Anos's special staff had gone missing, but since it wasn't graded before it disappeared, I can only give your team 70 points. Sasha immediately felt the decision was unfair. Hybrids and nobles deserve equal treatment, she shouted. Unfortunately, the teacher wasn't pleased with Sasha's boldness. "Shut your filthy mouth," the teacher threatened, "or I'll expel you from school." In that tense moment, Anos appeared in front of the student who was thought to be the thief. With confidence, Anos announced that the student had found the thief, calling them ugly and useless. After pulling the royal staff from his chest, Anos handed it to the teacher, adding, "You're just a worthless virgin." After class, Misa thanked Anos for exposing the thief. However, Sasha quickly told her to stay away from her boyfriend. Still, Misa didn't back down. She told Anos that she was part of the Unitarian group, which hoped to unite the demon races, and she invited Anos to join her because only the Demon King could make a real difference. So that night, as the girls saw him, they immediately felt something thrilling. Sasha's face was flushed, and they wondered, thinking how his sword could pierce deep into them, all the way to the spine. Imagining that possibility, they couldn't help but feel like they might end up stuck in a wheelchair the next day. The next day at the arena, the students tried to pull out the magical sword that was stuck in the ground. However, Sasha quickly realized that the sword was draining their magical power, and it seemed like there was no hope of succeeding. Suddenly, the two demon emperors, Geos and Idol, appeared before them. Idol began to speak, declaring that only a truly worthy student could pull the sword and be allowed to compete in the magical sword tournament. Curious, Sasha asked why Anos didn't try to pull out the sword. Was the sword too strong for Anos? However, with immense power, Anos forced the sword to emit an incredibly strong aura, and in an instant, the sword flew into his hand. The sight was truly impressive. Seeing this, Geos suggested fighting Anos, but suddenly, an unknown student drew another sword, and they all realized that the student was the transfer student named Lei. Without hesitation, Idol decided to challenge him. Idol tried to attack, but Lei easily knocked him down. Anos then defeated Geos like trash, showing just how powerful he really was. In class, Lei approached Anos and asked to join his team. However, Amelia tried to warn him that Anos wasn't the right person and couldn't lead the royal family. Lei casually dismissed the school rules, saying they were as useless as his dating life. Anos, though slightly inspired by his words, still rejected his request and told him to join another team. Anos then told Misa and her group to join Lei and challenge him. He said he would only accept them if they could impress him. The next day, as the birds chirped, signaling the start of the duel, Lei informed the girls that he would face Anos. As they prepared to battle the forces, Misha suddenly summoned a giant ice castle from the ground. Seeing this, Sasha wondered how Misha could be so powerful. Misha thought it was all thanks to the power of her ice ring. Shortly after, Anos appeared in front of Lei, ready to fight and show who was truly stronger. As they saw the monster castle in the middle of the forest, Anos immediately realized that Lei was supporting his team with his magic power. Lei tried to even the fight, so Anos decided to strike with a large tree branch, relying on the power of nature to aid him. Meanwhile, Sasha managed to dodge the monster's sword blade and quickly used mind communication. Anos gave her instructions to team up with Misha and destroy the monster with Geograze. However, Sasha felt they weren't strong enough to do that. But Misha refused to give up. Boldly, Misha activated a siege spell and summoned hellfire mortars, ready to destroy anything in her way. At the same time, Sasha also prepared her ultimate spell. When Misha fired her weapon, its energy fused with Sasha's spell, launching Geograze and blowing a huge hole in the monster's body, defeating it. They were both stunned, wondering how they could be this strong. However, Misa quickly followed up by striking Sasha from behind. Meanwhile, Anos, not wanting to be left out, playfully slapped Lei on the butt. As Lei attacked with his sword, his strike missed, but they continued clashing before Lei jumped back to dodge. On the other side of the field, Sasha was impressed by Misa's ability to hide. Sasha decided to show off her strength with her majestic phoenix cloak. Misa thought she could defeat Sasha by any means, and at that moment, the monster tried to attack again. But Misha wasn't backing down. She appeared just in time to give support. As they both attacked together, the girls unleashed their fire and ice magic, combining it into a fusion spell. A powerful tornado immediately sent Misa flying and knocked the monster to the side. They both realized that their power grew stronger when they worked together. Just then, an explosion shook the forest, startling them. They quickly realized that Anas and Lei were preparing to destroy the entire area with one massive clash. Strong winds began to blow, and when the clash happened, thick dust erupted all around the forest. Anas revealed that this was the first time he had truly fought since his reincarnation, and he looked excited. Lei saw Anas as a worthy opponent and stepped forward, ready to finish him off. But Anas allowed him to split his previous power, then revealed that he actually had the upper hand. Lei realized he might have died if this were a real weapon, so he decided to surrender. Even so, Lei wondered if they had met before because something felt familiar. Anas casually replied that he was the Demon King and welcomed Lei to his team as if they had been friends all along. That night at his house, Anas' young mother started celebrating the growth of his harem. But unfortunately, the girls only saw her as an ugly woman they considered useless. They thought she was disgusting and better off staying away from Anas. The next day at school, Amelia announced that Lei and Anas had been chosen to fight in the magic sword tournament. She also told them to prepare their swords before the event began. However, after class, Anas told Lei that he was suspicious that the royal family at the academy had actually recruited him for the tournament. At that moment, Misa arrived and told them that one of the 7 elder emperors was at the Union Tower. They rushed to the tower, and when they arrived, Melhace informed Anas that he had been waiting for his reincarnation for 2,000 years. Melhace said that half of his memories had been erased after his death, but his soul never forgot Anas. Anas started to think that Abos Delhevia might be behind all of this, and he wondered who had really chosen him for the tournament. That night, when Anas arrived home, he found that Misha had already cooked dinner for him, just like a good wife. After they finished eating, Anas offered to take her on a date, while thinking that Misha could be a better wife than Sasha. Misha, hearing this, got excited and was told to choose the place she wanted to visit. The next day, they arrived at a magic model shop for their date. However, Anas wondered, how could this be better than eating at a restaurant? Inside the shop, Anas started noticing various model houses on display and quickly realized that Misha had made them. When Misha took him to the workshop, she showed him how to use her ice magic to create a model of their dinner. Anas was impressed with her work and decided to try making one himself. As Anas summoned his magic, the shop owner, watching him, immediately thought Anas could sell the model for $1 million. However, Anas clearly didn't want to sell it and quickly told the shop owner to step aside. That day, Misha began to admire Anas' creation as if it were a precious little treasure. With a bit of magic, Anas transformed his work into a beautiful ring and placed it on her finger. Anas told Misha that she could keep it forever because all he wanted was for her to always be by his side. While they were having lunch at a restaurant, a mysterious cat suddenly appeared in front of Anas. Misha immediately realized that it was Lord Ivas. Ivas started telling Anas about the Unitarian group, which was led by a mysterious man. Strangely, even the members of the group didn't know who the mysterious man was. Anas then instructed Misha to keep an eye on the tournament and be cautious of any traps they might be planning. That night, when Anas and Misha arrived at the hospital, Anas decided to look around. Just then, Lei showed up and wondered why they were there. Anas said they were on an outing, but Lei didn't seem to believe it and thought it was all just a lie. Lei told them that his mother was sick and he had come to stay by her side, thinking it was just an ordinary illness. With kindness, Anas offered to heal her with magic, but Lei replied that there was no hope for her, though he still thanked Anas for the offer. A few days later, Lord Ivas informed Anas about some of the other demon emperors who were planning to lure him into a trap during the fight. Anas thought that retreating was the right decision and told him that he planned to lure Avuz Dilhevia out of hiding. In the arena, as the announcer's bird introduced the reigning champion, everyone began to realize that Anas wasn't there and assumed he was a coward for backing out of the fight. Meanwhile, in the tunnel, Anas waited for Avuz Dilhevia to appear in the arena. Anas thought that he could lure Avuz into the trap he had set. However, while waiting, Anas started hearing various insults. His mother suddenly shouted, cheering him on, saying that Anas would become the Demon King and kick everyone's butt once he took the throne. At that moment, his father also arrived in the tunnel, bringing a special magic sword that he had made for the duel. His father said that Anas' victory would prove that even a hybrid could become the Demon King. Hearing those words, Anas realized that retreating was not an option. Anas then told Misa that he would destroy every escape route from the trap. With determination, Anas set off and leapt onto the arena floor, impressing all the girls. With his sword drawn, Anas vowed to defeat the man in an instant to prove that he was the true Demon King. As the man started attacking with full force, Anos easily dodged and jumped to the other side. Seeing Anos evade, the man became furious and hurled a water font at him. However, Anos simply destroyed the attack with a single slash. A strong wind blew toward the champion, and in an instant, his sword shattered, causing him to fall like a loser. At that moment, the bird in the arena announced Anos as the winner. But not long after, Amelia appeared furious and intended to eliminate him. In the waiting room, Anos was sitting calmly when Lei entered, seemingly ready to attack him. However, Lei seemed to be trapped in his own thoughts. After that exchange, they parted ways, and Lei vowed to defeat Anos in the final. Once Lei left, Anos told Misa that Lei was wearing a mysterious collar, and it was possible that Lei was willing to sacrifice himself for his sick mother. On the same day, Anos managed to defeat his opponents. The students began to wonder if Anos would try again to actually win the competition this time. That night, his mother seemed very eager to keep Anos' large sword, knowing that Anos wouldn't be allowed to continue in the tournament if his sword was lost. Anos handed his sword to his mother, who nearly dropped it because of its weight. Shortly after that, Anos and Misa arrived at the hospital, where they found Lei's mother lying sick due to a spirit disease. The woman seemed to have lost all her source and magic. Anos told Misa that he felt like he was about to disappear, realizing that he was half spirit and half demon. However, Misa wondered how Lei could be a noble while his mother was a hybrid. Anos began to think that maybe the woman wasn't Lei's biological mother, and he wondered if there was a way to save her. At that moment, the woman woke up and started to realize who she was. She told Anos that Lei always talked about him, even though Lei was mostly unconscious. Anos wondered if the woman knew that Lei was a hostage of the royalist organization. The woman nodded, saying that she knew, and that it was the only way to treat him. Anos wondered if he could heal her, but the woman explained that she was half spirit. She could only exist if everyone believed in her source. As for Lei, the woman added that Lei was a special child who always loved swordplay, but Lei felt sad because he never found a worthy opponent until he met Anos. Anos was confident he could defeat Lei, but he didn't want to be the reason his mother died. So, Anos tried to cast a spell, telling Misa to use her spirit magic and flow her source into the woman. However, Anos reminded Misa not to lose all her source, as it would be impossible to revive either of them. Nevertheless, Misa was determined to save her, and immediately agreed. As the new spell activated, Misa's source began flowing into the woman. At the same time, Anos' mother, Isabella, and her group were on their way home when Amelia appeared before them. Amelia informed them that the steering committee was supposed to hold Anos' sword for the final. However, Anos' mother quickly stepped back, and Amelia thought violence was the solution. Amelia unleashed a powerful energy ball, nearly destroying everything. When Isabella realized she was hurt, Amelia fired an even stronger ball. Fortunately, the girls protected her with magic spells, creating a magical barrier, but the explosion was strong enough to throw them back. After seeing the injured girls, Isabella wondered why their teacher was attacking her own students. But Amelia simply called them worthless, dirty hybrids who didn't deserve to be in her class in the first place. Amelia came to take revenge on Anos for humiliating her brother in the arena and believed everyone else could rot in hell because they weren't nobles. As Amelia released her terrifying energy, the girls tried to protect themselves. One of them even told Isabella to run away. However, Amelia mocked them, saying they were too weak, and raised her energy to the point of draining them. Despite being in a desperate situation, the girls refused to give up. Amelia then cast a fire spell, intending to burn them to ashes. With her rage growing, Amelia unleashed an energy blast at the girls, shattering their shield and turning them into burnt toast. With no hesitation, Amelia fired another energy blast to annihilate Isabella. But Anos bravely appeared in front of her, taking the brunt of the explosion. Anos called Amelia a disgusting and disgraceful piece of trash, then restrained her with a spell. At that moment, Anos healed his mother's wounds and revived all the girls, telling them he would never forget their bravery. As he approached his teacher, Anos told her he would punish her for being so cruel, and in an instant, they disappeared into the arena. Before the teacher could escape, Anos stabbed her with his sword, reminding her that he would only spare her life if Amelia acknowledged him as the tyrannical demon king. The pain grew worse. Amelia finally called him the Demon King, but Anos sensed that Amelia was only desperate to survive. With that, Anos sent her straight to hell. However, Anos soon cast a spell, and Amelia woke up in a new body. Anos told Amelia that she was now a hybrid and had to say goodbye to her nobility. It was her worst nightmare, and Amelia tried to end her own life. But Anos told her that he had cursed her to return to this body forever, before disappearing from the arena. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Lei sneaked up on Misa, curious as to why she was there. Misa explained that she was sharing her strength with her mother, hoping to save her and free her from the royalist organization. Happy to hear her good intentions, Lei suddenly became angry because Misa had lost too much of her soul. Without warning, Lei knocked Misa unconscious, then laid her down on the couch. At that moment, Lei realized his mother had regained consciousness. Filled with emotion, his mother began expressing her desire to rest in peace. She shared how happy she was to have found Lei after being abandoned by her family, and how proud she was to be Lei's mother. However, As Lei watched her fall unconscious again, he decided to leave the room, feeling relieved to have found closure. Just then, Anos entered and saw Lei leaving the hospital. The next day, the two faced off in the much-anticipated duel. The fight was set to begin, with both wearing spirit-draining bracelets that would limit their magical powers. Once the duel began, Lei leaped toward Anos, narrowly avoiding his sword strike. As their weapons clashed, Lei wondered how Anos remained so strong despite wearing the bracelet. It was revealed that Anos' bracelet was actually just an ordinary piece of jewelry. However, Lei had no intention of killing Anos. The problem was that Lei's contractual sword pierced his source of power, ready to end it all. Lei told Anos that he had just broken his contract with the royalist group and his mother would soon be disposed of. Lei felt his life would end after the sword destroyed his source and didn't want to drag Anos down with him. Even so, Lei promised he would give him a good fight before taking his last breath, ready to accept the challenge. Anos challenged him to give it his all, then struck with his sword. Everything happened so fast, as if they were moving too quickly to be seen. Lei managed to dodge Anos' attack, then stabbed his hand and leaped away before striking again with lightning speed, slashing Anos' body. As they clashed, both attacked with their swords. Anos slashed at Lei, wondering who would come out victorious. They struck again, and in the chaos, Anos lost his arm. However, Lei couldn't avoid the next attack, and his sword shattered as Anos drove his blade into Lei's heart. At that moment, a magic spell was activated, and the floor began sinking into the ground, pulling everything into a dimensional prison. Anos noticed the bird, which suddenly transformed into Elder Melhace. Melhace happily informed Anos that he had been waiting for this opportunity to eliminate him, and now, with half of Anos' magic drained by the bracelet, Melhace was confident this would be an easy elimination. However, things didn't go as planned. Two other old emperors appeared from a portal to support Melhace, but Anos remained calm and unaffected. Lei quickly killed the old emperors, and then Anos froze them with revived magic. Melhace, confused, wondered how Lei could still be alive. Lei then explained that Anos had destroyed his sword contract in his final strike. Even so, Melhace still felt superior. In the process, it was revealed that Lei's mother was trapped inside the dimensional portal. Melhace told Lei that he would only release her if Lei agreed to become a royalist puppet again. In fact, Melhace promised to cure his mother's illness as well. Lei didn't stay idle. He threw his sword and leaped, nearly entering the portal, determined to eliminate Melhace. From his movement, the portal began emitting darkness, and Anos realized it was the same darkness he had used to separate the four realms 2 million years ago. As Melhace unleashed that darkness, Anos deflected it with his shield but couldn't unmask Melhace. Melhace tried to convince Anos that he was trapped, but his arm began to float, reaching out to grab a terrified Melhace. In a panic, Melhace rushed toward the portal, trying to escape his fate. At the same time, the darkness attempted to break through Anos' shield, and suddenly, a new portal appeared in front of Lei. However, Anos quickly cast an anti-demon spell to protect him. While shielding himself, Anos warned Lei that he had overused his power, and wondered if Lei could help. Lei desired a massive sword made from anti-demon magic, hoping to destroy all the darkness in front of him. And, like magic, a giant sword formed right before him. Lei thought with this weapon, he could escape the dark world by slaying all his enemies. As the cover disappeared, Lei attempted to slash through the darkness, but his attack was reflected back and his sword broke. However, Anos quickly covered for him before Lei turned to stone, even though Lei felt all hope was lost. In despair, Lei called himself a loser and believed he deserved to be abandoned. Suddenly, his mother woke up, offering her support. Lei panicked, afraid she would disappear forever. However, she assured him that she would always be with him and transformed into a mighty sword. With this new power, Lei shattered the darkness and began cutting down anything that stood in his way. When Lei reached the portal, he flew forward with a powerful light, destroying all the darkness and even breaking through Melhace's impossible dimension. Once Lei was finished, his mother appeared, saying how proud she was of him before fading from sight. Lei felt a deep sadness, but Anos told him that his mother could be resurrected. However, while they were talking, Elder Melhace believed the battle wasn't over and began preparing another dark dimension to eliminate them before they realized it. Anos suddenly appeared behind him, and Melhace wondered how Anos had entered his absolute space. In an instant, Melhace trapped Anos inside Banu Levan and unleashed an explosion of power. However, despite the deafening blast, Anos was completely unharmed. Not giving up, Melhace created another dark realm to surround him. But strangely, the darkness vanished, leaving Melhace in shock. He couldn't believe how Anos survived in such a situation. With confidence, Anos summoned his mighty sword, revealing that he had regained his full power and was ready to end it all. Anos unleashed a single slash that shattered Melhace's disguise. Melhace thought he had dodged it, but suddenly he fell to the ground, confused about how he got caught. Anos then told him it was impossible to avoid his sharp blade. In desperation, Melhace tried to summon a portal to escape, but the portal shattered instantly. As Melhace tried to create more portals, each one was destroyed one after another, as if some greater force was out there. With one precise slash, Anos struck him, destroying the evil within and restoring his mind. Immediately, a strong light began to spread around them, revealing the true battlefield. Melhace told Aenos that he had been attacked the night after they met at the tower, and since then, he had lost control of his mind. Before their eyes, the two older emperors were summoned from the ground. Aenos concluded that their minds had been merged and taken over. He speculated that the source of their troubles might be controlled by abridged Delhedia, so he decided to bring him back to life. However, a sudden explosion destroyed the source, and they saw the figure of a mysterious man in the darkness. At that moment, the spell binding them began to fade, and the students around them started wondering who had actually won the duel. As the smoke cleared, they found Lay unconscious on the ground, while Aenos was declared the winner. In his victory speech, Aenos said that it was his sword that did all the hard work and mentioned his father as a national hero. Afterward, Aenos realized how sad Lay was about losing his mother, so he decided to heal his wound. With hope, Aenos brought his mother back to life, and Lay was overjoyed to be reunited with her. After that, Sasha gave Aenos a sword as a symbol of his victory. Smiling, Sasha said she always knew Aenos would win and promised to always be by his side. The next day, the atmosphere at school felt different when a new teacher introduced himself as Manu's teacher. Manu's teacher claimed that they would be replacing their old teacher, who had mysteriously disappeared from the school. The new teacher then announced plans for a trip to the human realm and an inter-academy class at the Hero Academy. However, the students felt uneasy. They had never been to the human realm before and wondered if the journey would be safe. The fear of possibly being killed in their sleep began to haunt their minds. After class, Aenos decided to train his friends. He thought they might face some reincarnated heroes, so he wanted to prepare them for the battles ahead. As Misha created an ice sword for Lay, the mood lightened. Lay started jumping on the ice, trying to slash at Aenos. However, Aenos easily broke his sword and punched him to the ground, calling Lay a weak and embarrassing person. That night, Elder Melhace contacted Aenos and told him that he had managed to revive two other elders. However, when they gathered, they realized their memories had also been stolen. Melhace suspected the human realm was to blame and explained that the Hero Academy had begun training reincarnated heroes to prepare for a possible war with their territory. The tension grew, and Aenos knew they had to be ready for whatever was coming. After a few days passed, the students were finally ready to depart for the human realm. But before they knew it, Aenos teleported them in an instant and decided to explore the city. Once they arrived in the city, they immediately noticed the stark difference between the human realm and the demon realm. Calm and peace filled the atmosphere, surprising Aenos a little. Upon arriving at the Hero Academy, they encountered a girl who seemed confused, wondering where they came from. After learning that they were from the Demon King Academy, the girl introduced herself as Eleanor. They quickly realized that Eleanor was their senior. Aenos, who was very interested in their hero's legend, asked Eleanor to show them around the school. Before long, they came across a painting that caught their attention. Aenos explained to Sasha that the painting depicted their hero, Canon. Then, while in the library, Eleanor revealed a book containing the hero's legend. Eleanor shared how the hero had defeated the tyrannical Demon King. Hearing this story, Sasha immediately became enraged. She shouted that the Demon King was never defeated by their hero, but instead sacrificed himself to create peace throughout the universe. Seeing Sasha on the verge of an outburst, Aenos quickly tried to calm her down. When Sasha wondered who the Demon King in their history books truly was, Eleanor calmly replied that the Demon King was abridged Delhedia. Eleanor then explained that there were 4 heroes who had reincarnated, each from different eras. Suddenly, a student appeared before them. With a condescending tone, the student said that the Demon King must have been the villain of the world and could never have sacrificed himself to create peace. The student mocked them as losers who doubted the history books and told them to accept their defeat right away. The student introduced himself as Ledriano, claiming to be the reincarnation of the first hero Canon and a member of the elite class. At that moment, another student appeared, introducing himself as Laos. Laos claimed to be the 3rd reincarnation. However, Aenos felt they were not the reincarnations of the hero and called them a pair of wannabe heroes. Laos thought he could win and tried to make Aenos eat his words by charging at him, launching a magical blast. But Aenos effortlessly destroyed it in an instant, knocking him to the ground. As Laos tried to attack again, Ledriano ordered him to accept the reality that he was a pathetic loser, then apologized to Aenos for the trouble caused. Outside the academy, Eleanor wondered if Aenos was a reincarnation. Aenos nodded and explained that he indeed was, hoping to meet the real hero when he returned to his life. However, before they left, Eleanor told him that the hero Canon had disappeared, having been killed 2,000 years ago. Even with all her resources, Eleanor added, she was no longer the hero they once remembered. A few days later, a group of seniors appeared before Aenos. The leader introduced himself as Rivist and demanded to know how they arrived before anyone else. Aenos simply replied that it was none of his business, while telling him to get his ugly face out of sight. That day, in the hall, the headmaster of the Hero Academy introduced himself as Diego. Diego announced that he would be their instructor for the Inter-Academy class. To start, Diego called out a few random objects from the table and told the students they had to showcase their magic in a friendly display. Diego then selected Ledriano as their representative, while teacher Manu chose Rivas to represent the Demon Academy. Immediately, Ledriano unleashed hero magic from his rusted sword, restoring it in an instant and shattering a statue, impressing everyone. Rivas, feeling pressured, decided to reveal his own abilities. However, as Rivas attempted to cast his spell, it instantly vanished. When he tried again, the spell disappeared once more. Ledriano began to question whether the Demon King Academy was filled with terrible losers. Anos had grown tired of all their underhanded tricks. He revealed that they had cast Lihid and destroyed the concealment spell to seal demon magic. In an instant, the spell broke, and the cloth grew, absorbing all the spells cast and turning them into monsters. However, using the Lihid spell, Anos managed to dispel the monsters and created a holy sword right before their eyes. The headmaster was shocked by the sight, while Ledriano commented that Anos truly was the reincarnation of the tyrannical Demon King. At night, Melhace began telling Anos some rather shocking things. Melhace revealed that history books never disclosed the hero canon's death. But more intriguingly, Melhace discovered that humans had been spreading false news to the students of the Hero Academy. They claimed that Anos would attack their territory in his reincarnation, and that they would be saved by the hero canon. Anos then realized that the human realm was actually trying to start a war, and he wondered who was responsible for these absurd stories. The next day, by the seaside, the students gathered for their inter-academy exam. However, Anos noticed that Eleanor had disappeared, and everyone began to worry that Anos had been captured. Just then, the headmaster stood up and announced that their exam would take place underwater. The headmaster hoped that the Demon King Academy could at least put up a decent fight. One of the seniors felt confident and thought they were ready for the challenge. The man even asked the teacher to choose them as the exam representative. However, Anos thought they would still lose and told him to back down. On the other hand, Rivas felt he was the only one fit to represent the school and offered to take the position. After all, Rivas was his teacher's favorite, and eventually his teacher agreed, hoping they would win for the school's reputation. After a while, the exam began. The Demon King Academy summoned the palace located underwater. However, not long after, they realized that the magic power from the Hero Academy couldn't be sensed. A student quickly observed that his spell had been cancelled. Seeing the situation, some students began swimming toward the enemy's territory, attempting to take a step forward despite the precarious circumstances. However, the strong currents caused one person to be separated from the group. When the others noticed, they panicked as they couldn't communicate with Rivas. One of them saw a hero and tried to cast a spell, but unfortunately, the spell was cancelled, and the flood quickly washed him away from the surface. After managing to endure, Ledriano instructed his team to head toward the Demon King's castle. Meanwhile, Sasha began to realize that the seniors were trapped and thought they had no chance of winning. In that moment, her teacher closely observed that holy water had mixed with the lake, and Anos explained that the Hero Academy was receiving an endless supply of holy water to boost their magical power. In the lake, the seniors saw the three heroes approaching their castle. Without wasting any time, they activated their spells and released a massive amount of dark energy. However, the heroes quickly activated their shields, and Rivas realized they weren't hurt at all. At that moment, the three heroes activated a triangle spell and began absorbing the castle until nothing remained. They realized their advantage and felt the power flowing through them. Heine confidently summoned his large holy sword and began destroying everything in sight until even the screen disappeared. Seeing his students in a desperate situation, teacher Manu quickly asked the headmaster to stop the exam, but the headmaster instead told him to enjoy the view. As teacher Manu hurried toward the lake, Anos stopped him and offered to save the trapped seniors. Right then, Anos activated a spell and lifted the group out of the water, though all the students looked battered. Manu tried to heal Rivas, but Manu was shocked when he realized his magic wasn't working. While Anos attempted to offer healing, Rivas slapped him and said that he didn't need help. However, Anos argued that his teacher would be fired if Rivas remained in danger and told him to swallow his useless pride. Rivas, full of confidence, displayed his magical equipment and explained that it was used to control water by the Hero Academy. Filled with anger, Rivas told Anos to become their school's new representative and destroy the Hero Academy like worthless trash. With determination, Anos healed his wounds and promised to take care of everything. Shortly after, Anos challenged the heroes to follow him into the next round of the exam, and they all confidently accepted. They were sure they could kick his butt. But before they realized what was happening, Anos summoned the mighty Geograze and directed it at the lake. As it exploded, all the water in the lake dried up and Anos began descending into the valley, followed by the heroes, ready to face the challenge. With excitement, they followed him into the valley, and Ledriano thought they would surely win again. As the duel began, Anos summoned Geograze to destroy the Hero Academy, but a barrier was protecting them. One of the new students quickly slashed Anos's Geograze, breaking it. Anos told his team that the barrier was designed to reduce their magical power, and they would never win unless the barrier was destroyed. Misha, quickly grasping the situation, suggested they create a castle inside the barrier to level the playing field. Without hesitation, Anos offered to bring her in, and they instantly disappeared. Once inside the barrier, Misha began to feel pain from the disturbing magical influence. Seeing Misha's condition, Anos immediately healed her with a spell, ensuring she no longer felt any pain. At that moment, Misha activated the power of her ring and summoned 3 large castles that rose from the ground. Seeing this sight, the heroes were shocked and realized how powerful they were. Just then, Ledriano introduced a new girl named Zeshia, the 4th reincarnation of the hero canon. Shortly after that, the heroes unleashed an ice blast toward Misha, but Anos quickly blocked their way, even as he was restrained by ice chains. However, Anos chose lightning and immediately electrocuted the heroes in front of him. Zeshia suddenly appeared in front of him, but Anos unleashed lightning once again, causing a massive explosion. Not long after, Laos rose again, looking hungry for revenge. However, Sasha appeared in front of him, telling Laos that she was his new opponent and promising to beat him up until he looked worse than a blobfish. After the explosion, Laos launched several attacks at her, but Sasha managed to dodge them all. However, Laos quickly realized that Sasha had stolen his magical equipment. Determined to get it back, Laos began attacking and summoned his massive sword. In an instant, he split the ice in front of him and successfully reclaimed his equipment. Now, Laos was ready to swing his sword with full enthusiasm. Sasha felt trapped in the barrier magic and knew it was time to end it all. Suddenly, Laos attacked her, but his blood burst, causing him to fall to the ground. At that moment, he realized his equipment had been poisoned by a dark spell. In an instant, Sasha destroyed the barrier magic surrounding her, shocking Laos as he watched. Meanwhile, Lei was facing the 3rd reincarnation of the hero canon, Haina. However, his hand quickly detached, and Anos couldn't believe how Lei managed to strike from within the barrier. Even so, Haina swiftly restored his arm and was confident he still held the advantage. When Lei took his sword, he thrust it into the ground, and in an instant, an eruption occurred, throwing Haina backward. It gave him the chance to catch his sword. Haina was stunned, wondering how Lei could handle both demons and a holy sword so effortlessly. However, Lei simply said it was none of his business and told Haina to rest in peace. Meanwhile, Anos suddenly appeared in front of Ledriano, directly telling him to stop pretending to be clueless. Seeing Anos, Ledriano realized he was facing a very powerful opponent. In seconds, Ledriano summoned his sacred ocean-guarding sword, ready for battle. Zeshia tried to sneak up from behind, but Anos swiftly deflected her attack. With unwavering determination, Zeshia attacked again, flying around Anos and swinging her sword relentlessly, trying to slash his face. She finally thrust the tip of her blade toward him, but it didn't work. Anos easily slammed her to the ground. Seeing an opportunity, Ledriano tried to take advantage of the situation, but Anos threw him against the far wall. Feeling desperate, Ledriano decided to cast a powerful spell that would cover the entire valley. As a bright light began to surround them, he announced that they were channeling the souls of every human in that realm, and this power could erase anyone who dared to resist. At the same time, Zeshia charged at Anos, breaking the barrier that was protecting him. However, Anos swiftly dodged the slash while she blocked the lightning strike he launched, allowing Ledriano to break his shield. Nonetheless, Anos managed to escape their attack. But Zeshia and Ledriano didn't give up. They tried again, attempting to unmask him, but Anos skillfully jumped away. Ledriano was puzzled, wondering how Anos could grow even stronger. Anos then revealed that he was absorbing his own team's power to enhance his magic. The heroes launched another attack, but Anos deflected them all with a strong light. However, Ledriano refused to give up so easily. He unleashed a blast of energy, hoping to defeat Anos. But Anos fired an exploding fire arrow, easily taking them down. At that moment, a mysterious voice started to echo, heightening the tension. Anos immediately realized it was a brainwashing spell being cast. As the spell faded, Misha informed him that the magic was extremely dangerous. Yet, the heroes remained determined to switch to the dark side. As Misha backed away to avoid danger, Zeshia suddenly activated a death spell. She flew toward Anos, stabbing herself and exploding instantly. Despite the intensity of the blast, Anos seemed unaffected and even referred to himself as an immortal god. Shortly after, Zeshia launched another attack with a different spell, but Anos quickly realized it was merely a distraction. He buried his hand into the source of the magical power, as if trying to put an end to all the chaos. Suddenly, Anos heard Eleanor's voice calling him, asking him to meet her in the temple. Without delay, Anos ordered Misha to meet Eleanor, and Misha soon arrived at an ancient hall filled with a mysterious aura. As soon as Misha arrived, Diego suddenly unleashed a deadly attack, hoping to execute her. He summoned his sword, and Misha cast a shield spell that was supposed to protect her from Diego's strike. However, this only allowed Diego to stab her from behind. Furious, Diego blamed the Demon King for the prolonged war that had lasted 2,000 years and felt the Demon King deserved punishment for all his crimes. Fueled by his anger, Diego began stabbing Misha with his sword, determined to send her to the afterlife. In his frenzy, Diego declared that the Demon Academy was caught in his scheme, and that they would all be executed. But Anos did not stand idly by. He made a hole in Diego's body and threw him against the wall. After that, Anos created a protective spell to shield Misha, then went on to destroy Diego with a black smoke that made him vanish instantly. In a firm voice, Anos summoned him back and demanded to know why they turned the high school test into an all-out war. When Diego stubbornly refused to answer, Anos didn't hold back. He activated a spell, and in an instant, Diego transformed into an ugly beast. Thinking he could use his new form to his advantage, Diego began ordering his students to immediately execute the Demon Academy. While raising a light, he urged them to honor the fallen hero, Canon. Anos's team tried to dodge the red-eyed monsters roaming around them. But suddenly, the light vanished, and Diego began to wonder why no explosion occurred. Anos explained that he had stopped time before the blast could happen. He then drew out its source, saying that the Hero Academy was just a group of villains and referred to Canon as the true hero. As Anos destroyed the magic source, the monsters disappeared before his eyes. With Diego's demise, Anos began taking Nisha to a safer place. After a while, they arrived in the temple, where Anos asked Eleanor who she truly was. Eleanor explained that she was a magical human created with a forbidden spell that transformed her. Anos found this quite reasonable, especially after witnessing the hero's wounds mysteriously healed during battle. He then decided to set Eleanor free. With the power of his demon eyes, Anos shattered the glass that trapped her and donned his uniform. At that moment, he activated a spell that caused the barrier to vanish from the outside. As the mist disappeared, Anos asked about the clones trapped inside the bubble. Eleanor told him that the clones were created by the Academy, and that she was the magic source that brought them all into existence. She explained that Commander Canon, the hero, initially perfected this process. Anos immediately recalled that Commander Canon was a notorious enemy who desired the destruction of the underworld. His intense desire led him to establish the Hero Academy. Commander Canon wanted to ensure that the war continued. 2,000 years ago, the hero tried to stop his plans for war, but unfortunately, Commander Canon was killed by his own subordinates. Eleanor then told Anos that she had always hoped to meet him, and pleaded with him to destroy her. Eleanor didn't want to create any more clones that could cause further harm. As Anos began to express his intent to fulfill her request, a clone of Diego suddenly entered the temple. Eleanor warned Anos that the heroes and the headmaster would continue to resurrect unless the hero Canon was killed. At the same time, the remaining 3 demon emperors blew up the temple entrance. Avuz Dilhevia, holding the hero's sacred sword, attempted to stop them. In desperation, Diego unleashed an energy blast, but a black sphere suddenly absorbed all the energy, even swallowing the men around it. Right then, Anos appeared before them, fully aware of who he was. He immediately unleashed the Geograze technique, but Avuz quickly slashed through it, weakening its power. Avuz announced that he had come to change the world and then vanished into thin air. That night, Diego's hologram appeared before the humans resurrected by the tyrant Demon King. Diego declared war on the human realm. At the same time, in the underworld, Avuz appeared in another hologram, stating that the human realm was evil and deserved to be erased like a stain on a dirty plate. Inside the tower, Melhace informed Anos that Avuz had gained the support of all demon kings, and their armies were preparing to advance toward the border. At that moment, Misha and Sasha appeared enthusiastically, offering their support to Anos. They promised to always stand by him. The next day, Sasha and Misha were ready for action, confronting the demon forces to keep them away from the border. Meanwhile, outside the kingdom, Lei was in action, taking down several troops across the forest. His objective was clear, to drive them away from the eastern border. At the edge of the underworld, Anos informed the elder emperors that he planned to confront Avuz directly. With a fierce spirit, Anos unleashed blazing fire to intimidate the troops. When the elders appeared through the flames, the soldiers there thought they were terrifying ghosts. However, Anos appeared before them with full confidence, declaring himself as the true Demon King. Even so, his troops remained doubtful, thinking Anos was just a trick, so they decided to attack him. But with just a single move, Anos shattered the ground far in the direction of the castle. At that moment, 3 other elders began flying toward them, but Melhace dismissed it as a minor issue. Anos then vanished into the castle, and shortly after, Melhace contacted him through telepathic communication. Melhace informed Anos that the 3 elders had been detained, but strangely, Avuz's source was not within them. Meanwhile, Avuz stepped toward the border, but a mysterious barrier surrounded him. Suddenly, Anos appeared before him. Without hesitation, Avuz summoned his sacred sword and struck at Anos, creating a wave of energy that shook the surroundings. Anos tried to grasp the energy source, but Avuz quickly leapt away with surprising speed. Anos recalled the hero Canon and wondered when Avuz reincarnated. With burning curiosity, Anos decided to remove Avuz's mask, revealing that Avuz was Lei. Lei looked confused and asked how Anos knew that Avuz was the hero. Anos explained that the shell necklace Lei bought a few weeks ago was known only by the hero, proving that Lei remembered his past. Anos was also puzzled by how Lei could wield both the unique sword for demons and the sacred sword for humans, then asked why Lei chose the path of evil. Lei replied that humans were weak. Lei began telling his story about how he was killed by his own followers. After that, humans began planning the Demon King's extermination before Lei could reincarnate. However, Lei found it deeply unfair and decided to change the future with his sacred sword. Lei disrupted Anos's destiny to reincarnate as the tyrant Demon King and made himself the Demon King, hoping to sacrifice himself to bring peace back to the human realm. Lei believed this was the right step, even considering his life as the perfect sacrifice for the kingdom. But Anos thought that the shell necklace showed that Lei had a loved one, and Anos insisted he wouldn't let him go. Despite that, Lei remained determined to complete his goal, even if it meant putting Anos into the ground. Lei then readied his sword for battle. As Anos soared toward the sky, he threw a fireball at Lei. Lei tried to slash through the fireball but fell, and the flames began engulfing him until one of his energy sources was destroyed. Still, Lei rushed back at Anos, and Anos quickly cast a spell to strike him, causing another of Lei's energy sources to vanish. The battle continued, with Anos summoning a massive sea that drowned Lei, making him lose another energy source. Even so, Lei refused to surrender and managed to strike Anos. However, Anos retaliated with a Geogray Rain, which caused Lei to lose his fourth source. Before Lei could attack again, Anos plunged his hand into himself and shattered Lei's fifth source. Lei fell to the ground with only one source left. Anos reminded him that he couldn't possibly win this fight, but Lei was still confident he could defeat Anos. Lei then summoned a second sacred sword and launched a quick attack, trying to slice Anos into a million pieces. Lei started cutting through the heavy Geogray Rain, until finally, his sword pierced Anos's heart. This had been Anos's plan all along. Anos could only tell Lei to stay with Misa for the rest of his life. At that moment, Anos's energy source began to weaken, and he disguised himself as Avuz Dilhevia. Seeing this, Lei quickly realized that Anos was actually the true hero. Anos hoped that this second sacrifice could restore true peace to the universe. As the dark wall crumbled, everyone realized that the hero had killed the Demon King. Anos thought that this was a step toward creating genuine peace, then ordered his forces to retreat until he could reincarnate. As Lei drew his sword, Anos began to fall to the ground and crumble. Raising his sword, Lei announced that Anos was dead and that the war was over. As Lei sheathed his sword, the demon commander ordered his forces to retreat. However, the mad Diego wouldn't accept this and began ordering his forces to attack the demons. At the same time, a spell was activated on Zeshia's troops, but Elena appeared before them, hoping to stop the war. Diego claimed that destroying the demons was the only way to create true peace. As rage started to burn inside him, Diego emitted a mysterious energy as if possessed by an evil spirit. In that dramatic moment, a soul rose from him, transforming into a spell, and began hypnotizing soldiers to continue the war. Soon, an old commander named Jurga appeared before them, a figure who had betrayed the hero 2,000 years ago. Jurga declared that he had returned to exterminate demons, but Lei insisted he would destroy him first. Lei launched a slash, but his attack vanished into thin air. Suddenly, Sasha and Misha appeared before him, determined to stop Jurga. Holding hands, they activated a powerful spell that united them into one body. Jurga hurled several energy blasts to destroy the girls, but his attacks only caused them to disappear. When Jurga intended to activate the self-destruct spell on Zeshia's troops, the girls immediately bound him, and the hero slashed at him. As Misa threw a bubble, the hero detonated it, causing the bubble to spread to Zeshia's forces. Elena also stopped the rest from reaching the demon troops. As the chains binding him broke, Jurga made the troops start rising again, and Lei realized that he couldn't trap them all in one bubble. At that moment, a strong light spread across the area, while clones began falling to the ground. And this is where Anos appeared as the savior of the day. When Jurga began to wonder how Anos could reincarnate so quickly, even after losing his source, Anos calmly replied that he had activated origin magic, using the hero's attack as a starting point to revive his source. Jurga thought he could eliminate Anos, but it seemed that wouldn't be an easy task. Jurga intended to erase Anos forever and began chanting a spell that drained human souls, turning him into a great knight. Proudly, Jurga swung his sword, but Lei quickly deflected it. Anos told Jurga that it was time to eliminate the cause of the long-lasting war. Jurga swung his sword intending to finish them off, but Lei quickly parried his attack, sending Lei flying toward the forest. In the increasingly intense battle, Anos held off the knight's strikes, even causing fires, but Jurga retaliated with a massive explosion. As the smoke slowly cleared, Anos decided to cast a spell and began absorbing energy from all the girls. Nevertheless, Jurga felt that his power was far greater, then summoned millions of swords of light. Jurga hurled the swords at the soldiers, but Eleanor bravely protected them with a large shield and shouted for them to retreat. However, instead of retreating, they supported Eleanor, and Malhace destroyed another set of swords. Desperate, Jurga tried to chant another spell but was immediately shocked with electricity. Anas, with a tone full of confidence, told him that the kingdom didn't need to go to war. As Jurga fell to the ground, Anas summoned his sword and they barely managed to dodge the attack. Even so, Anas's and Lay's blades struck Jurga, and they began to evade his energy explosions. In the end, Anas and Lay managed to break Jurga's shield and plunged their swords into the night. For a moment, a golden light appeared in the sky but quickly vanished. At that point, the girls parted ways, and the twins looked very happy to see that Anas was still alive. Soon after, Anas appeared before Eleanor to fulfill his promise. Anas cast a spell on his source, telling her that now Eleanor belonged to Anas's magic, and vowed to protect her forever.